Good evening. My name is Casey Nye. I'm the superintendent at DC Everest. I'm also the chair of the Marathon County Mental Health Collaborative, and I share that because that's a group that behind the scenes has helped to put this event on tonight, and I'm super grateful for their support, as well as all of the different community groups that are out front and have been behind the scenes in the planning all the way through. In addition to those hats, I'm a parent. I've got kids that are 14, 17, and 20. How many parents in the room tonight? Show of hands. Appreciate you coming out. I'm a lifelong educator, and I feel like I've been in tune to the things that happen with kids. Been a secondary school principal, teacher, educator for 25 years, and I can tell you this is a different conversation. And I've learned a ton, and I have different conversations with my own kids because of it. And I think as much as we appreciate our kids being here, how many young people in the room? How many kids? This is something that you probably know more about than most of us as adults in the room. So tonight's about a couple of things, but one of the big parts is making sure that moms and dads and adults that care for you can have some different conversations about some really tough things that are going on. So I'm not the expert in this, though, and so as much as I appreciate all the families that are here, I want to acknowledge another really, really important family, and that's Bradens' family that has been working behind the scenes and very much out in front, telling their story. So we're going to hear from Brittany here in just a minute, and I've heard from the very beginning, almost a couple of months ago now, that she's wanted to find justice for Braden, and she's wanted to raise awareness and help others know about something that's terrible and we shouldn't have to talk about, but we need to today. So I'd love you to give a nice warm welcome and round of applause to Brittany Bird.
Hi, everyone. First, I want to be completely transparent. A public speaker, I am not. So bear with me. I have my notes. I'll try to make this as smooth as possible. I also want to thank everyone for being here. Outside of the support that we've gotten from Casey and the Mental Health Collaborative, you guys being in these seats and listening to this message are part of the reason we're going to make a difference. Even if you are sharing this within a small circle of people, the more people who know about this, the bigger the change is going to be. So what I want to kind of start with is telling you a little bit about Braden. I know a lot of the people in this room know him or know of him. Who was Braden? Braden's an average teenage boy. He played sports. He had poofy hair. He picked on his little sister. He loved to ski and play baseball. Braden was a teammate, a friend, a big brother, grandson, nephew, cousin, son. He had a job and a girlfriend. Braden had goals and dreams in his life. He wanted to go to college. Just a couple weeks before March 5th, him and I had a conversation about how he wanted to get a job where he would be successful and not have to live paycheck to paycheck. He planned on living. So I'll kind of go into our story a little bit. I know that people have heard bits and pieces. We've done a lot of media coverage. This might be a little heavier than some of those pieces, but I think it's really important for you guys to know this. So on March 4th, 2025, typical day, I was at work getting messages from Braden asking if he could come to my job at the hair salon because his friend was getting his hair done. That's what kind of friend Braden was. He knew his friend was going to be sitting in the chair, getting his hair bleached, and he wanted to be there, just to hang out, just to talk. There was supposed to be a winter storm that night, and so the boys were plotting how they were going to go to the ski hill the next day. They were talking about the new tricks that they were going to do. They had all the plans. We were driving home from the salon that night, and Braden fell asleep in the car, and he woke up laughing because he had a dream in the car that he was at the gym and doing tricep pulls, and he jerked his arm, and it woke him up, and him and I just laughed about it. That was the last time that I heard my son laugh. That night, March 4th, my husband went downstairs to check on Braden around 10:30 at night. Typical scene again, he was FaceTiming with his girlfriend at the time. Nothing out of the ordinary. He was looking for his wallet for his debit card, which again, not out of the ordinary. He had just gotten a job. He was buying things on Amazon every other day. We had packages showing up all the time. So we're thinking, probably just buying, who knows, another package of do-rags. I'm not really sure. So, no alarm bells there. He was fine all night, fine all day. March 5th, I woke up around 6:30, and I saw a text message on my phone from the school that school was canceled. Sure enough, they were gonna have a snow day. He was gonna get to go to the hill. So I walked downstairs to wake him up and let him know, it's your snow day. It's your ski day. You can go do your new tricks at the hill. I went downstairs and his alarm was going off, which is unusual. I mean, he would usually get up, turn it off, get in the shower, take an hour to get ready for school. But I went in his room and he wasn't there. I continued walking down our hallway and I thought, maybe he's getting in the shower, maybe he's in the laundry room. Wasn't there. So I turned down the other side of our basement steps to where we had a weight rack set up. That was our weight room. Braden was also very big into weightlifting and had to make gains. And that is when I found out that Braden had taken his life. Immediately, I'm screaming his name. My husband runs downstairs. We start doing compressions, but we knew he was gone. We did everything we thought in our power that we could do to try to bring him back. And during that time, we kept asking each other, why? Braden doesn't suffer from depression. He didn't have issues as far as mental illness or anything like that. He had plans that day. He had plans on Sunday to go see his girlfriend. We knew this wasn't our son. After the police had came, we also noticed too, when we went downstairs and found him, his phone was plugged in, propped up, facing him, and his debit card was on the ground. We still could not figure out what's going on, why, what happened, why didn't he come to us? He talked to us about everything. Last summer, I was at a concert in Eau Claire. I got a phone call at 5 o'clock in the morning from Braden because his girlfriend had broke up with him. And he called me first. I was his person. He would tell me everything, so none of this made sense. Later, when the police had looked over the scene, they found a Post-it note on my husband's computer. And the note said, "Make sure he gets caught. I'm so sorry. Everything is on my phone." So Braden knew at this point he was a victim of a crime, but he still felt there was no way out. The reason why I feel so compelled to tell our story and share this is because every one of you, youth and adults alike, need to know there is a way out. If you are threatened, afraid, or pushed to this point where you feel like, I can't go to my person, we will always be there. You can. We don't know the context of the messages that were sent to Braden. We will someday. I believe fully in my heart and in my gut that he was threatened to a point where he felt like he needed to protect somebody else. My son wouldn't have done this over a photo. If that was the case, he wouldn't have left all of the information in his phone. I've beaten myself up for the last almost 2 months thinking, why didn't he come to me? Why didn't he talk to me? But the way that he did come to us was by leaving that note and letting us know that there is a bigger evil out there than any of us could have imagined. I need to get a drink of water. Thank you. So after I went public with Bradens Story, there was never any doubt in my mind that I wouldn't share this. I think a lot of people don't share because they feel it's shameful or they're embarrassed. Braden's a 15-year-old kid. What would we have done as adults if we had the whole world in our hands on a phone as 15-year-old kids? 4 days prior to Braden ending his life due to being extorted online, Elijah Heacock from Kentucky did the same thing. It was 4 days apart. These criminals are not stopping. They are not slowing down. They won't stop. Now we have to fight back. And the way we do that is knowledge and education and talking about the things that are uncomfortable to talk about. In 2023, Landon Weigalt, age 17, from Oconto, also took his life after being extorted online. This is so much bigger than any of us ever realized. We need to keep having these conversations. We need to keep speaking about it. These people are never gonna stop. We need to protect ourselves and protect our kids. I want all the young people in the audience, look at the guardian, adult, grandparent, parent, whoever you came here with today. Look at them and know that we will do anything on this earth to keep you safe. That is our job. That is our purpose. Will you be in trouble? Maybe. Will you get your cell phone taken away? Probably. But you will be here. We need you here. My son paid these people $300, and then they said $300 isn't enough. We want more. He tried to send them more money via Western Union and other money apps until he got to the point where he felt there was absolutely no way out. I want all of the young people in this audience to know we will help you find that way out. You are worth more than $300. My son was worth more than $300. You all know this. All of his friends, his family, he was worth more. Now, the adults, I want you to look at the young people in this room and who you brought here and look at them and know they're kids. They're going to make mistakes. They're going to do stupid shit. That's the way that kids are. The conversation needs to change from don't do it to I know that your brain is not developed to make these decision-making skills. If you get in trouble and you feel there's no way out, we can fix it. You are worth more than a couple $100. Your lives mean so much. We need you. Your teammates need you. Your friends and your family need you here. Another piece that I feel very compelled to share is it might be a really heavy burden for a teenager if your friend reaches out to you and says, hey, I'm not feeling really good about this. I'm a little nervous. I'm not sure what to do. I don't feel safe. Say something. When someone reaches out to you, when they're in this position, you're their lifeline. That's heavy. That is a lot to take on as a 15-year-old, teenage, whatever age. That's a lot. Maybe you're worried your friend's gonna be mad at you. Let them be mad at you for 2 weeks. They will be here. You need to speak out. You need to reach out to someone who can help you. We don't expect you guys to do it on your own. But it's our job to be that person for you, to keep you here and keep you safe. Use your voice. Be loud about it. Do not be ashamed. You're teenagers. We all do dumb stuff. Even if you're going to get grounded or things taken away, you got to stay. A lot of people, I was one of these people. I talked to Braden about this when I had seen it in a parenting group on Facebook. Just people kind of hacking people's profiles on Facebook and whatnot and sending photos. I had that conversation with him, so I thought for sure, not my kid. He would never do that. He wouldn't. Not my family. Everyone thinks that. Not my kid, not my community, not my neighbor, until it is your kid and your community and your neighbor. One of my good friends lost her son in October. He took his own life as well under different circumstances. But when I got that phone call at 2 a.m., or text message at 2 a.m., I went downstairs and I talked to Braden. And I told him how important it is to talk to me if you ever feel this way. And he said, Mom, I would never do that. So for sure, I thought, not us. He would never do that. He wants to travel. He wants to ski mountains. He's a big brother. So March 8th, we celebrated Braden's little sister's 9th birthday while mourning the loss of our son. On March 13th, it was my birthday, and my gift was a necklace with my son's ashes inside. We celebrated his life on the same day that I turned 36. Braden would not have left his sister before her birthday. He wouldn't have left me. He wouldn't have left any of you if he felt like he had a choice. He knew the permanence and the dangers of the internet, We had these conversations. But the people who did this to him are career criminals. It is literally their job to exploit our children for money. And they do not care if our children are still around after they get that money. They don't care. It doesn't make a difference to them. So it is up to us to care and make a difference and keep that conversation going. Throughout this process, we are learning a lot more about how deep this can actually go. Our next speaker, JohnDeMay, had same situation 3 years ago, and he'll be showing you a lot more intimate details into what those messages can look like, how intense they can be, and how a 15-year-old brain cannot comprehend that constant barrage of harassment, threats, and fear. I appreciate so much that all of you are here and listening, and if you take anything from this, you need to know Braden, Jordan, Elijah, and the other 40-some kids who this happened to were victims. They didn't do anything wrong. They were coerced, tricked, and threatened. They felt like they had no choice but to go. And I'm sure there are people in this room who've done something similar, right? Taken maybe a risque photo and sent it to somebody. Obviously, yes, don't do it. If it comes to that point and then someone tries to attack you over this, you need to know you are a victim. These people will tell you, you're going to be a pedophile. You sent a graphic photo of an underage person. Your life is over. No, it is not. Your life is just beginning. Your world as a teenager is so small. So everything is so big. There's so much more. There is so much more out there. And while your parents or guardian or whoever may be disappointed, we don't love you any less. We're not ashamed of you. You're being kids. You have to speak. You have to speak up. And you have to use your voice and be that safe space for those who need it. I'm going to pass this over to John now to give you a little bit more in-depth, little educational pieces, I guess, to this. But what I want you to take away from our story is Braden wasn't just our son. Braden is your son, your daughter, your nephew, your grandson. Braden was like any other 15-year-old. And he was taken not only from us, but from our entire community. And the only way we can stop this from happening is to keep talking about it. Educate yourselves, educate others, keep the conversation going. We're never gonna stop the bad guys. They will always be there. They'll change tactics, but the more we know, the more we can fight back. Thank you again, everyone, for being here tonight. I'm gonna pass it over to John. We have to double click it.
Good evening. My name is JohnDeMay. I am also not a public speaker. I'm just a father too. And I think I can go home now because Brittany was absolutely amazing. This is a horrible tragedy that happened to this community. And this tragedy happened to my community in Marquette, Michigan. March 25th was 3 years ago. And I'm just a guy. I'm a former police officer in my younger days. I got into the real estate business about 18, 19 years ago. I have two other daughters. Jordan's mother and I divorced when he was very young. I remarried years ago, and I have a different family. Jordan's mother and I got along wonderfully, co-parented beautifully together for the 17, almost 18 years of Jordan's life. But here I am today telling Jordan's story. I lost him on March 25th and 3 years ago, and I spent a lot of my spare time helping communities and providing awareness to schools and law enforcement groups and organizations. I consult with NCMEC a little bit, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. I met some wonderful people along the way. I've done news outlets and dealt with senators and DC trips and met Frances Hugan, a whistleblower from Facebook, and Elizabeth Smart. Got to meet her, and it's just really some amazing people. And this story, unfortunately, was not loud enough to make it in my own backyard 4 hours away into Wausau and Ohio just recently. So, is the clicker going to work today? Here we go. I want to play this video for you in a second. This video, this clicker's being a little crazy on me here. Okay. This video is going to put you kind of in the driver's seat of what it feels like to be sextorted. This is a video produced by the National Center of Missing and Exploited Children. It's on their website. It's actually interactive, where you can make choices on there, whether you're going to do this, send a picture, not send a picture, and it kind of changes the video atmosphere. But I screen recorded this to show you what it looks like to go all the way through from the point of being contacted to the point of being extorted and sending money and trying to get out of this.
Dang, I got sniped. Res me real quick, res me. Come on, just hurry up and res me. They're like 10 seconds away, come on. Follow damage. Okay, 20 again. One pump, I got his teammate. 40, broke his shield. Hit him, what? 1 second.
handshake. Dosi está the west. The west.
You gonna try out for the team this year?
Yeah, probably.
You better.
You're back early.
Yeah, I got kind of tired.
Dinner be ready in an hour.
Okay. First and then start pushing. Okay.
How'd she do today?
She did good. Yeah.
Proud of you.
Can I get a dog?
Just gonna go.
Mark, you barely touched your food.
How would you? How would you? What do you want?
32 young people have died to suicide in this country in the last few years from sextortion. Unfortunately, I'm part of a group that, of the 32, I know probably 24 of the families. The others I do not. But to give you a sense of what's happened, as you just seen in this video, this is Riley Bassford. He's out in New York. This young man was one of the few that had died in 2021. So when my son died of this, there wasn't a lot of research on sextortion. And when I started Googling what this was and trying to figure out what was happening, Riley's story is the one that came up. He took his life in 30 minutes. Shaylin Dixon, also New York, she was 18 years old. She died in March 2021, just before or after Riley did. Braden Marcus, 15 years old, Night, Ohio, October 21, 27 minutes from the time that he got that first message to the time that he took his life. 27 minutes. Evan McDaniels, 14, out of Texas, 30 minutes. This is Deani Torres. His family and our family are very close friends today, out of Michigan, 14 years old. They sextorted him for 6 to 8 weeks. We all know this handsome dude. 4 hours. Jordan was just under 6. A couple key things with sextortion. There's 2 kinds. I'm not going to go real deep, but the point of it is financial sextortion is when they're sending pictures for money, like this young man in the video. This is what happened to Braden. This was happened to Jordan. This is what happened to these other folks, these other young people that I showed you. Traditional sextortion is about images. So what happens is they are targeting women, specifically young ladies, and they're targeting for the pictures. They're not targeting for money. These organizations are usually overseas. They're loosely connected. They're small cells most of the time, but they have different niches. Ours, in our case, in Jordan's case, was money. Others is pictures. They go on to young ladies' accounts. They grab your Instagram account. They look for your cutesy little headshot. They scroll down. They find you with your duck lips picture and your makeup on. They grab that one. Scroll down. They look for your low-cut tube top shirt on a hot summer day. They grab that one. Just keep scrolling. They go back to spring break in Florida and they grab your bikini picture. They grab that one. And then they start following all your friends. They start reaching out and befriending all of your friends. And then they reach out to you. And the only picture that they need from you is a nude. Top or bottom or both. And they're going to request a friend, and you're going to start communicating, and they may use those pictures and try to get a nude. And once they do that from you, they might go away once you send those pictures. And then they'll start coming back, and they'll keep coming back and keep coming back. And they take those pictures. Now they have a full set. They have your headshot all the way down to your nude. They package those up and sell those to other organizations like the one that victimized my son Jordan. They create a fake account or use a hacked account. They upload those photos, and those are the photos that they send to start earning your trust. Hey, this is me, headshot. Hey, this is me on the beach in Florida last summer. Send me a picture, I'll go first. Send off the nude. And then they entice the victim to send a nude back. This is my lovely family. This is my son Jordan with the bushy hair like all the rest of them. My 2 young daughters, 9 and 11, and my lovely wife, Jessica. This is my son, Jordan. 6'2", 185 pounds, dual sport athlete, all-conference basketball player, honor roll student. I'm in the real estate business. I own a lot of rentals. Made him change toilets all the time. He loved me for that. He was going to be a nice, hardworking young man. He was educated. He was extremely popular. He was the winter homecoming king. He spent a lot of time on our boat. Just enjoy life. That's his girlfriend, Kyla. Just an average, everyday dude. Until March 24th at 9:01, when this nice young lady reached out. This is a screenshot of the messages that were sent. And she said, "Hey." Jordan says, "Who is you?" "I'm Danny from Texas, Georgia at the moment." "Nice. Yeah, I hope I didn't invade your privacy," she says. And these are messages that went back and forth. As you can see, it starts out kind of friendly. "What do you do for fun?" "Oh, I lift, I play sports, I listen to music." "What about you?" "Oh, sounds fun. I like hanging out with my friends and playing sexy games." "Sorry, that came off wrong, my bad." Kind of baiting them a little bit here. Conversation starts going on. This is now 11:37. Mind you, this first message came in that night when Jordan was wheeling his overnight bag because we were going to Florida for 2 weeks for vacation on Friday morning. He was packed and ready to go. I crossed paths with him on our sidewalk outside real quick while I was running out to our garage and said, "I'm heading to bed. I gotta get up early. See you in the morning." And that's the last time I saw him. Unbeknownst to me, hindsight being 2020, he had just received his first message and started communicating with Miss Danny Roberts at that time. I was sleeping by 11:37. "Sorry, I got upset. Just bored. What about you? Thought you might want to do something fun." Jordan's kind of just hanging out and seeing what happens, and just you can see they just keep sending messages until he bites back. It's actually a sneak picture exchange. No screenshots. You're down. Just for fun, though. Nothing else. It's actually a live mirror pic exchange showing your sexy body. No screenshots. You get what I mean? Yeah, and it's set on a view once. After viewing, it disappears. So she's trying to convince him to do this. "Of course I can. Of course I can go first if you'd like." And then throws out the hook. "But you're home, right?" "Yeah, I'm home. 11:41. "Cool. You can just take a mirror snap, show me you're ready, and then I'll go first with my sexy pic." And then Jordan's hair starts going up in the back of his neck. "Well, you follow a lot of people from my town, though." "Haha, what do you mean?" "I think someone followed me, by the way, or TBH. You follow in the back, though." So Jordan's at this point, he's trying to figure out what's going on, and he's got something in his mind, knows it's not right. But he continues, 11:46. "Well, I get it if you don't want to play." Starts playing the guilt trip. "It's cool. Just thought you were cool and down, might be down for something fun." Jordan, "Well, I got a girlfriend, though, and I feel kind of sketched about it. I don't know. I don't think I'd send, though." If you don't want to look bad, not like said is just for fun, though, is not like I will just come into your home and date you. So you can all see the language here is goofy. I wasn't typos on my end. That's exactly how it was written. "I know you wouldn't come to my house and date me." Then he says, "Is this some sort of prank? Get me caught, then what?" 12:49, after the conversation continues, Jordan sends an unknown pic. The unknown pic was actually an internet graphic of a naked person that he just sent her as a joke, which I thought was pretty intuitive and funny. But she sends back the first nude. Jordan sends another Snapchat or headshot or selfie in the mirror, fully clothed, just a selfie. And then she sends a second nude pic, and then he sends a picture, full-on nude picture from a mirror shot. 1:15, she sends a third picture and then tells Jordan, "Hey, I'm gonna put a video together for you." 11:15, Jordan sends another unknown pic. A couple minutes later, the light switch hits. "I have all your screenshots and all your followers. Tag can send this nudes to everyone and also send your nudes to your family and friends until it goes viral. All you have to do is cooperate with me and I won't expose you." Just pay. "What do I got to do?" Jordan says. "What do I got to do?" "Just pay me right now and I won't expose you. How much? $1,000. Deal or no deal? I don't have $1,000. 15 seconds to figure it out. Starts putting timelines on it. I literally don't have 500. So in this exchange, they're negotiating money. Starts at 1,000. They were going back and forth. They want 500. Jordan says, I don't have 500. And they start doing countdowns. 10, 9, 8, putting the pressure on. Danny Roberts comes back and says, 300, deal or no deal. Jordan says, fine, I'll pay you $300. Friday morning at 2:02 is a screenshot of Jordan's phone sending $300 via Apple Pay. Friday morning, a couple minutes after Jordan sends the $300, Danny says, I'm deleting them. 1 minute later, she then responds with a picture of what appears to be his nude uploading into Google at 55% and requests another $800 to delete it from Google. So he sends $300, it's not good enough. 1 minute later, she's now putting pressure on him to send another $800, or this picture is uploading to Google as we speak. Jordan says, I don't have it. Made efforts to send copies of his screenshots of his bank accounts, saying he doesn't have any money. He had like $65 in his account left. They said, well, take that too. Jordan sends them the other $55. Hindsight 2020, and this is what blew our case open eventually. The extortionist, which doesn't usually happen, sent his nude picture to Kyla, his girlfriend, trying to extort her. This message went unopened until the following afternoon. $328. Okay, then I will watch you die a miserable death. Jordan's pleading. Please, bro. Dude. And then 6 calls were made to Jordan via Snapchat audio. $3:41 in the morning. Jordan sends a message to his girlfriend, Kyla, I love you so much. I made a big mistake and I wish I could continue, but I can't do this anymore. This was from a choice I made and I must pay myself. Right after that, he sends that text message to his mother. Mother, I love you. 3:43. Jordan messages back and says, it's over, dude, you win. Danny says, good. Jordan says, I'm killing myself right now because of you. Their response was, good, do it fast or we'll make you do it, I swear to God. 1 minute later, Jordan shot himself in his bedroom. At 7:30 in the morning, I received a message on Friday from his mother asking, is Jordan at school today? And I said, well, he should be. It's Friday. You know, weird that he wouldn't be at school. He never misses a day of school in his life. And so I walk out in the living room, and my girls and my wife were getting up for the morning for school themselves. I look out the window. I see Jordan's car in the driveway. I said, oh, that's weird. Walked downstairs, went into his room, and I found him in his bedroom. I had no idea what happened. He had a pistol in one hand, and the phone was in the lap. His bag was packed at the end of the bed, ready to go to Florida. We had no idea what happened. Fast forward the afternoon, the dust settled, and we found out from his girlfriend after she opened an Instagram account in late afternoon on Friday and opened her Instagram account to see the message of Jordan's nude picture. She had no idea what was going on. She contacted Jordan's mother and I and said, I don't know what's happening, but I have this picture. I don't know what it's about, what's going on. So we immediately called our detective who came that day and to the initial scene and told him about the picture, and he took the picture and did some more interviews and said, I'll be in touch with you. 2 days later, I get a call, and on Sunday evening, and he told us that Jordan was sextorted. And I said, sex what? Sextortion. It's been happening a lot. The night that Jordan got that text message on Thursday night, the FBI that very afternoon sent out a bulletin to all their field offices on the rise of sextortion as a public awareness announcement. That same day. The detective contacted our local FBI office. They work really well together in Marquette. Local FBI filled out search warrants and affidavits to Instagram. Jordan deleted everything off of his account before he died. He didn't want anybody to know about this. He deleted his history and everything. So we had to go directly through to Meta in the back end and request a copy of the transcript. And for the young people in here, just to let you know, when you put stuff on the internet, it is not gone. Even on Snapchat, y'all think your stuff disappears. It does not. It's on their server and you can get it at any moment. Pictures and everything. They were able to get the transcript. They read through it. They called us Sunday night and said, this is sextortion. Read us some excerpts of the transcript. Read us that last piece that you saw there. And they said, we're going to be in touch with you. This is going to be an investigation. So we're like, well, this is crazy. And at that time, because of the nature of the call and because the picture was sent to his girlfriend, we decided as a family with our local sheriff that we wanted to get a public notice out, and we did a press release with our community saying, this is what happened to Jordan, because like your community, my community was upside down. Everybody loved Jordan, we know everybody in town, and we just could not believe that this young man would do that. So that's what we did, and this was the start, and where we're at today was that very first day of getting that public awareness, because the messages started pouring into me. People that I knew, people outside of my social circle, people that we played sports with, were all messaging us saying, hey, we didn't want to tell anybody, but this was happening to us too. Message after message after message. And we're like, my God, if we get 20, 30 messages from our community and social circles, this thing has got to be massive. So as the investigation started, I'm thinking Mr. James Taraska and Abdul Karim, James Taraska is the lead FBI, the head of the FBI in Michigan, just retired last year. And this is the gentleman that runs the EFCC, which is the equivalent to the Nigerian FBI. Just so happens that Mr. James Taraska and Mr. Abdul Karim, when they were young agents, Mr. Taraska was stationed in Lagos, Nigeria with this gentleman together for 2 or 3 years. So when they found out Jordan's case went right to Lagos, Nigeria, James calls Abdul Karim and says, hey, we got this stuff going on. I need a team that I can trust. He said, I got you. They assembled a team together. They tracked these guys down. They made 6 arrests in Nigeria. The federal government indicted 3 of them. 2 of them were extradited 2 years ago. They went through our judicial system in courts in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and last September they were sentenced to 18 years in prison. Thanks to these 2 gentlemen right here. Fortunately for us, this all worked out. The new moon and the stars aligned, but there's many families out there. Of the 32, there's been 3 of the 32 that have had extraditions. Jordan's was the first in United States history. These were the main suspects. Samson and Samuel Ogashi, brothers, middle-class Nigerians. Dad just retired as a military officer in Lagos, still living on military housing when they did this. Mom was a small business owner. Both Samuel and Samson are the ones that were extradited and are sitting in prison in Illinois today. Mr. Ezekiel Roberts, he was actually the computer guy. There was these 3 yahoos sitting in a dorm room doing this. Mr. Ezekiel was the computer guy. He was the one chatting. Samuel and Samson were the guys going around befriending Jordan, looking for all of his contacts and history, finding out who he was. They were doing the research. So they worked as a team. But in Jordan's case, these 3 were arrested. There was 3 others that were handled in Nigeria, and then just recently there was 5 Americans that were arrested for the money laundering side in Atlanta and Huntsville, Alabama last year. They're going to be sentenced in this summer. Let's talk about social media for a minute. Bloomberg was one of the big outfits that really dove into this, and they did this article with us about sextortion, and it really made headlines. This is a big publication. And what they discovered was, when they did their investigation, they found out that our group of extortionists were actually trained by a group of people called the Yahoo Boys. This is an organization that trains people how to sextort their victims. These videos were on YouTube for years. The scripts were on YouTube and everywhere else for years. You could go right on and learn how to do it, just like baking a cake. And that's why when you read some of these messages, they're almost identical to the messages that were sent to Jordan. And I met another family tonight that dealt with this similar thing, and the messages are always the same, because it's the same scripts that are being used over and over and over and over again, because they work. These are some screenshots of the Yahoo Boys. They actually victimize people and then post it online on TikTok and other platforms. They advertise their sextortion schemes. New blackmail update. Blackmail format update. Join WhatsApp group for more cash out updates. This is all advertisement for the latest and greatest. 6 weeks after Bloomberg published that article, Meta goes out and deletes 63,000 Instagram sextortion accounts that derived from Nigeria. 6 weeks after that article was posted. At that time, the Google search for the phrase "how to blackmail someone with pictures" is trending 850%. That was in 2023, I think. In 2023, the cyber tip line at NCMEC received more than 186,000 reports of online enticement. So between 21 and 23, it was up 300%. In 2024, October, almost 450,000. So you can see the rise. Legislation. There's only two ways to make some change. And this isn't just about sextortion for me anymore. This is about fentanyl poisoning to young people. It's about sex trafficking to young ladies. It's about all these things, and the least common denominator always comes back to social media. I met dozens of parents. I sat in this room right here. Those pictures are dead kids from 25 or 30 different families. As those CEOs, that's Mark Zuckerberg, Meta, YouTube, Telegram, TikTok, all those CEOs sat in that room with us parents behind that lost their children from all these things because of their platforms are allowing and facilitating this stuff to happen. But it's great people like David Erb, who's a former Meta employee, and Francis Hugan, who I sat next to at that very hearing, who I met, who is also a famous whistleblower from Facebook, that is blowing the lid off of the dirty laundry that these social media companies are doing to our young people. I met David in DC, and one of the really big takeaways I had from him was that I asked David, I said, what do you think, if you had to put a number to the users in Meta platform, what do you think is fake accounts? He said 50% at least. I said 50%. He said, yep. He said 50 plus percent of Meta's users between Facebook and Instagram are fake, fraudulent, or duplicated. So if that gives you any indication of what social media is, that should be the number one. Now, if you end up in a sextortion thing, I think it's important to know this is a great takeaway. If we happen, and Brittany really said it great, it's we spend all this time, don't do this, don't do that, don't do this, don't do that. Sending pictures is absolutely wrong, right? As we saw before, 1 in 5 teenagers in this room, 1 in 5, are sending pictures back and forth to one another already. So parents need to know that is what's happening. Those are the numbers, and it's actually probably higher than that. So if you have 5 children, one of them's doing it. It's the way that young people sexually communicate. It's the way they communicate with everything. We aren't going to stop that. But what we have to do is help them understand, help them cope with it, and as parents, we need to do things, everything we can do to mitigate any of the loss, because the social media companies are not doing any of it for us. They're allowing it to happen. There's only 2 ways to change social media companies' behaviors: legislatively or it's civil litigation. Legislatively is a grind. I've spent many, many times in Washington, D.C. with many groups, fighting, attending hearings, trying to push for simple legislation to help young people survive online. And that's the sad part. We're spending entire decades and life spans trying to protect young people, and it's happening to adults too. But we have to spend our energy with the children. But the one nice thing I will say about Meta is they work together with National Center for Missing and Exploited Children and came up with this program called Take It Down. So if you do send a photo and you get yourself into a situation like our sons did, we can go to this website, take it down at nicmic.org. You can enter the photo into that website, and it will go out to the participating platforms like Facebook and Twitter and all those places, and it'll start pulling it down. It'll remove it from the internet. It's a great defensive tool. So there's a plan B, if you will. A couple takeaways. Teenagers, it's okay. Like Brittany said, this is a crime. Is it wrong for you to send photos to one another when you're a minor? Yes. If you send a naked picture when you're 15 years old to somebody and somebody disseminates that picture, that's child pornography. Are you going to be charged with child pornography if you're a victim of sextortion? No. And there isn't a law enforcement agency or a prosecuting attorney that will ever do that. And if there is, you can call me, and I will fly, drive, swim to help you with that, because that is not the case. Sending pictures is wrong. If I had the chance, I would put my foot in Jordan's ass after he sent that photo if I knew about it. There's no doubt in my mind. I would have done it fast and would have ran, because he's taller and probably stronger than me. But that would have happened. But you know what? We would have took care of it. Don't delete anything. I know it's hard. Your mind is racing, and that young man in that video, you can see things are happening fast. Jordan's reaction was to delete everything. Braden was the most courageous young man on the planet, because he said, find these MFers, right? It's on my phone. But don't delete anything. Record the username, report the user to whatever platform you're on. You can block them, and the most important thing is to notify somebody. Cops, adults, both. Parents, again, it's a crime. Just because your son or daughter sent pictures doesn't mean they deserve to be a victim of a horrible, heinous crime. They deserve to be grounded for a week. Their car needs to go away. Their phone needs to get ripped out for a few weeks. Something, but they don't deserve anything else than that. They need reassurance. If you can remember, if when we call law enforcement, the ICAC, or the Internet Crimes Against Children, they're a very specialized group of detectives that have training in this. They know exactly what sextortion is. They know exactly what sex trafficking is. They know all these things. They know how to handle it. They know how to deal with it. They have the resources for you. So if you can remember, when you call law enforcement, ask for an ICAC detective if you can. And spread the word. Because as I found out early on, after Jordan's story went public, people were calling and texting and messaging us all across the board, telling us that they knew and didn't say anything. And it sucks, because it's a extremely sensitive thing, right? But I think it's important for us to pull the covers off that and say this is ridiculous because it's happening to everybody. I spoke at the ICAC convention in Atlanta this last year, and I was speaking with those folks, and they're literally thinking that their feeling is that literally everybody from 13, 14 up to 18 years old is going to be a victim of this to some degree, at some point. It's happening that much. So that's why we need to spread the word and let people be aware, because even this situation shouldn't have happened. This is right in our backyard. If I could see the audience, I'd ask you how many people knew what sextortion was before Bradens Story. And probably more than half of this room would have not heard of it. A couple takeaways for parents when we talk about what do we do? What do we do as parents? A couple quick things. No electronic devices in private areas. That was one thing that I really didn't pay much attention to. Jordan was 8 weeks from his 18th birthday. I didn't give two shits what he did on his phone at that point. Like, he was going to graduate high school and go to college, and I was going to boot him out to one of my rentals and, like, see you on Sunday dinners. A lot of these kids are 14, 12, 13, 14, 15 years old. They should not have phones in their private areas. Bedrooms, bathrooms, should not happen. Monitor your kids' phones. Half the time, they're not their phones or your phones. You should want to know what's on their phones because they're your phones. And gaming systems, that's a whole other thing. Roblox, they're talking to other people outside of this country sometimes. They're communicating with people all over the world on these video games. Set device ground rules. What's the right age for a phone? I don't have that for you. I'm not here to tell you that. I love social media. I think it has a great purpose. If it shut off today, I would be fine with it. I'd pitch my phone in the lake and be fine with it. I'm a Gen Xer, I can do that. I didn't grow up with that. But I love it, and I use the crap out of it. I power use it. But I could go without it. The young people can't. So, do you need a phone? Probably not. You decide. No social media until 16. I think this is kind of what I've been hearing in the industry with professionals and everything. The average age should be around 16 for social media use. Take that for what it is. Quiet time after 8. When Jordan was young, I had every single measure on his phone. Jordan had a phone when he was young too, and I had an iPhone. I actually set up a separate Apple ID for him that he did not have access to, so he couldn't upload, download content on there. I had all the filters on there. I had Verizon, so I had all the Verizon filters on there. I thought I was the best parent in the world. I had an app that carbon copied all his text messages, so I got to read all his text messages as they came in and went out. GPS, of course, right? I made him read his text messages from his girlfriend at our dinner table every once in a while. That was fun. Let's see what you and your girlfriend were talking about today. How's the soup, right? It was fun. We had fun with it. But I had a separate router actually too. I had a separate router in my house just for him, and I had a timer on it, and it shut off at 8 o'clock, didn't come back on until like 6 or 7 in the morning or whatever. So at night, he had no internet connection. Younger kids, when we start talking about phone use, one thing to consider is an Apple Watch. Because there are two things that are for sure in these situations, especially sextortion. One is internet connection, and two is pictures. Apple Watch, you have an internet connection, but it's not as easy to access pictures and send pictures on it. But it's a good way to have a phone capability and communication with text messages with your parents and stuff. Excuse me. And then lastly, have open conversations with your children. I mean, I think that's the most important thing, and that's really what haunts me a little bit is that Jordan and I had a wonderful relationship. We did a lot of things together. We were extremely well connected and adjusted, and he took his life while I slept in bed upstairs and never came upstairs to say, "Hey, Dad." It's a terrible feeling. But he was in such distress, and I raised him to be a strong person in a fight, and he did what he could. And when he got to the point where he felt he couldn't fight anymore, he was such a strong person that he felt, you know what? I'm going to take care of this myself. And that's not the way it should be. 17-year-olds don't have to make that decision. And I apologize to the young people in this room because you should not have to make those decisions. You are being pressured with so much adult content in your life. I apologize for that because it's wrong. And the social media companies are to blame for that. We have to remember that we are giving our kids access, or the world has access to or the entire world has access to our children through this device. And you have to be okay with that as a parent. Last thing, talk to somebody. In my story, week 2, after Jordan died, investigation starts going. We're kind of in the blind. They're not talking to us about what's going on. They're motoring through in the back end, which is great, but I found out through the grapevine, through the rumor mill, that Jordan was having a conversation with somebody while he was being sextorted. And I heard the name, I knew who he was. It was somebody from the gym that I did not know. He went to a different school, local school, but never met the kid, but I knew who he was. So I'm like, whatever, didn't pay much attention to it. About 3 weeks ago, the lead detective on our case, who's a friend of mine, he and I went to the police academy a couple years apart, went to school together. He called me up and said, hey, your investigation's pretty much winding down. I'm ready to talk about the investigation with you, if you're ready. And I said, yes. So I went down to his office, sat in his office for almost 5 hours, cop to cop, read the transcript. It was 150 pages long. Saw all the pictures, got everything, got all my questions answered. But the one thing he told me that I didn't know was that phone call, or that conversation that Jordan was having with his friend at that night, wasn't just a quick conversation on a video game. It was a 2.5-hour conversation the entire time he was being extorted. To this day, that kid has never come forward to me. I don't blame that kid. I even extended the olive branch and I said, hey, Lowell, he's the undersheriff now. I said, reach out to that kid, young man, he's probably 22 now, and tell him if he wants to have a conversation with me, I'd love to have a drink with him. I'm not blaming him. I want him to know that it's okay, because the remorse that he probably has inside is, I'm sure, tremendous. But I've heard multiple stories of that same thing in these scenarios that's happening. Jordan did reach out to somebody that night. Some of these other kids did reach out to somebody that night. It just wasn't me. Jordan reached out the olive branch to that young kid. But they were blowing it up and trying to get out of it instead of making the right decision. But unfortunately, when you're at that age, you're not making the right decision sometimes. So my takeaway is, talk to somebody. I appreciate everybody coming, and I think we have a panel discussion now, and we'll pass it over.
Good evening. If we could just again, what amazing courage and appreciation to Brittany and John for sharing their stories with us so that we can all be a little more informed and help keep our families safe. So one more time for Brittany and John. Round of applause, please. My name is Jane Graham-Jennings. I'm the executive director of the women's community here in Wausau. It's a victim advocacy agency. We serve victims of domestic violence, sexual assault, stalking, human trafficking. If people are feeling themselves tonight, we have a couple of advocates that were out at our informational booth that are happy to talk with you if you need to discuss anything. We do programming with particular things. There were some comments about when young people share photos. And what happens, and we work with our law enforcement, our district attorney's office to do a sexting diversion program which basically is once young people are caught with phones, technically they're in possession of child pornography. But as John was saying, we don't want them to be charged with that crime, and so there's diversion that we work with our local district attorney's office so that we can do that to keep kids safe and educate them. We have worked with sexual assault victims in our program for over 30 years. So we are here for people. All of our services are free, and we are available 24 hours a day. At the end of this month, which is actually Sexual Assault Awareness Month and Child Abuse Prevention Month, wrapping up with this informational session and hearing these very tragic stories is a apropos way to wrap the month up so that we can talk about what's happening and keep our young people safe. Our crisis line is available 24 hours a day, so if you are in a situation and you're just too afraid to tell your parents what's happening, you can call our 24-hour line and we can help walk you through that. We can help you. As you've heard numerous times, we need you to be here. Please talk to someone. We are going to jump into our panel now. We have some questions from experts in this area, so we'll ask some questions and have them introduce themselves. So our first question, Mallory, could you tell us, for us all to kind of be on the same page, what is the definition of sextortion?
Yes, so I'm Mallory Zazenhaus. I'm a special agent with the Wisconsin Department of Justice, Division of Criminal Investigation. I primarily work ICAC cases out of the Eau Claire field office. The direct definition of sextortion is it's a form of child sexual exploitation where children are threatened or blackmailed after sending a nude or sexual image. The suspect then demands either additional sexual content, sexual activity, or money from the child. So this crime can happen when the child shares a nude image with somebody that they think they know or they trusted, but in many cases they're targeted by somebody online. And that person online is often operating under a fake or false account.
Thank you. Dr. Puckett, our second question is for you. What do we need to understand about brain development that may be particular factors in understanding our conversation this evening?
My name is James Puckett. I'm from La Crosse, Wisconsin, and I'm a professor of counselor education supervision, which is just a fancy way of saying I train therapists. And then I'm a clinical therapist with specialties in trauma and addiction. So when we're thinking about brain development, the first thing to recognize with kids and adolescents is their brains are essentially Ferrari engines with the brake system of a 10-speed bicycle. And this is where parents, caregivers, professional helpers, community members who are adults, we serve as that brake system for our kids. The part of the brain that I really want to focus on is the prefrontal cortex, and some of you are very familiar with that. It's the front part of the brain that develops very, very last. Typically what we think we know is mid-20s, late 20s, but that does vary depending on lived experience of the person. Prenatal stress of mom can have an impact on it. Of course, mental health, traumatic experiences, substance use, and addiction. But for the most part, the prefrontal cortex, it serves 9 essential functions. And I'm going to focus on a couple primarily, but the prefrontal cortex is responsible for things like insight, right? You know, how many of your kids, teenagers, young adults, you feel just lack insight. They don't think about long-term, short-term consequences. It's what I want now. Things like empathy. So empathy, being able to put yourselves in the position or the shoes of another person and connect through emotion. It's a higher level of thinking. The prefrontal cortex is also responsible for fear modulation, fear regulation. So what is an actual threat versus what is not. The main part that I think is really relative tonight is this idea of intuition. So most, if not all of us, have had an experience where we've had a gut feeling, we've decided to ignore it, and we've regretted it. What we know about gut feelings is part of the prefrontal cortex actually lights up when you get that gut feeling and intuition. One of the things that we see with trauma, moments of traumatic experience or very, very high stress, is that we have the tendency to become very disconnected with our intuition. So for example, you know that you can go to this person or that person, you have good coping strategies, good skills, but in that moment of stress, it's almost like the person gets tunnel vision, and they don't see that they actually have options to get themselves out of a very dangerous situation. In that moment, it is about survival. Some of it comes in the form of protecting other people, protecting themselves, whatever mindset that they're in, but they do not see that they have all these options. And I think it leaves parents really confused of, we have these open conversations all the time, why didn't they come to us? The reality is, in some cases, it wasn't an option that they saw. The thing about intuition too, and just, the developed brain, one of the things I like to do with teachers primarily is we do this counting game, and we count by sevens. It's a whole thing. I'm not going to take time to explain it. But what I do is I have the teachers do this activity to understand what it's like for their students who feel a lot of stress in the classroom or test anxiety. They do well on homework, they struggle on the test. And so I have the teachers line up, and we count to 100, and we use intervals of 7 and their special rules. Well, with the teachers, they mess it up so much, and it's my math teachers who mess it up the most. Because, number one, there's pressure being in front of people and doing things. Think about when you're asked to read out loud, just the stress that comes, and it's like you don't know any of the words. But also because they are math teachers, they are supposed to know these things specifically. With brain development, one of the other things we think we know is that between the ages of 16 and 17 is when our kids have the lowest perception of risk and the highest desire to take risks. And this is the time where we say, here, take the car, be back by 10 o'clock. But the other thing with brain development, too, that we have to be very, very careful is chronological age does not always match brain development age. And so I've worked with a number of adolescents who function or maybe have they're 16 but have a reading level of that of a second grader. So just to assume that the 16-year-old can function like we think a 16-year-old should, we need to be very, very careful. As a dad, I am as guilty with my 9-year-old when I say, Titus, act your age. And then I have to stop for a minute, and I'm like, he is. And it's dad that needs to act his age. So when we think about brain development, we have to be that brake system, because when our kids, our adolescents become flooded, like I said, that tunnel vision really, really kicks in. And for those of you who are old enough to remember the theme song of Jaws and the anxiety that you get, that's what's happening.
Thank you. Next question is for Sarah. How are young people being targeted? What trends are emerging in our local data? And how can we use that information to better protect and educate young people?
I'm Officer Sarah Bedish with the Wausau Police Department. I am currently assigned as our Victim Resource Officer. My primary job is to follow up with victims of crime. I specifically follow with victims of crime with sexual assault, domestic violence, child abuse, sextortion, sex trafficking, human trafficking. So I think it's been hit home very well tonight how our young people are being targeted. We have to blame social media. We can't blame our children because our children are being raised in a world where social media is number one. I remember having a TV that you had to walk across the living room to turn the dial if you wanted to change the channel. And then you had to adjust the rabbit ears and fix the tinfoil if you wanted a different channel, right? Okay. We have to remember that social media is the world that our kids grew up in. I'm pretty sure my 6-year-old, when he was born, he knew how to work an iPhone. So we have to acknowledge that, right? It's not our children's fault. And unfortunately, the bad guys out there know this. So they know how to target our youth through social media. So they are reaching out through those apps that our kiddos are using. Local data that we have here, and this is just within the city of Wausau, since 2022 through what we know today in 2025. Obviously, Instagram and WhatsApp, dating apps, yes, our youth are using dating apps. Facebook, text message, but I've heard that Facebook is actually for the old people, which is us. And Discord, Kik, and email, okay? So remember that with our kiddos, that's how they're being targeted. Also, with our local data, surprisingly, males are our #1 victims. Why this is, I don't know. We could argue that brain development, males may be more likely to want to participate in sexual activity or sending those nude images. But males are our #1 victim, so keep that in mind. A lot of our victims we've been seeing lately are actually adults or the young adults. But we have to remember that a lot of our young kids are not reporting this, or it's being reported to parents and it's being reported maybe differently than sextortion. We do see that a lot. We cannot prevent social media. I use social media. We all use social media, right? Our kids are using social media. But now that we know that the perpetrators are using social media, we can get ahead of that by educating our kiddos and educating ourselves, getting comfortable with the uncomfortable and getting comfortable with having these really hard conversations over and over and over and over with our children. Because I'm no expert, but their frontal lobe doesn't fully develop until they're 25-ish, correct? Maybe, depending. I'd argue that most men don't ever get a developed frontal lobe, sorry.
My wife would agree.
There it is. So what does that tell us? That we need to continue having those conversations with our children until they're like 30. And then maybe they can make better decisions in life.
And could you follow up, Sarah, are there particular warning signs that maybe adults should look for that they might say that their children are being targeted?
It's hard to say. I think it was another thing that was made very clear tonight. All of these kiddos that fell victim to sextortion, there weren't any warning signs. Unfortunately, they were taking their lives right underneath their parents' noses because there wasn't that warning sign. We have to remember that these acts are very fast. They're very fast acting, and the child goes into such an embarrassing and shameful position. There is no time for them to run and talk to a parent or talk to their person or talk to somebody that is safe. However, if there are warning signs, I would compare it to something similar to like teen dating violence. So you might have heightened anxiety, your child isn't sleeping well or is sleeping too much, signs of depression, skipping class, stress over their phone, maybe stress about money, isolating themselves or isolating themselves more so in their bedrooms or in the bathroom. There might be a hyperfixation with their cell phone. You know your children or your child best. If something feels off, I guarantee you that something is off. Have that conversation. There may not be a distinct warning sign, okay? We cannot focus on the fact like, well, oh, my child was upset tonight, there must be a warning sign. They may be perfectly fine that night, just like the kiddos that we heard about. They were perfectly fine. There was no warning sign. But keep in mind, if something feels off, something is 100% off.
And John, we talked briefly before your presentation with the hindsight. Were there any signs that you didn't recognize?
Absolutely not. Like in my story, I saw Jordan at 10:15. I was sleeping. This entire thing unfolded 6 hours, roughly 6 hours, while I was in bed sleeping, and my family was sleeping. There are many, many stories. Just like she said, Braden Marcus, 27 minutes. I mean, how do you, on your best day as a parent, you are never going to see the signs in 27 minutes. They probably weren't home. But I think she hit the nail on the head with her comments about that and telling children that if this happens to you, they're in a place where they think that their entire life is gone. Jordan thought his entire life was gone. Braden thought his entire life was gone. Their entire life as they know it, fast forward today, I'm 45 on Sunday. I had a great time in high school, probably too much fun in high school. I have this much memory of it though. Right? And so when I talk to kids, I'm like, what you think your life is right now is not. You are going to grow up and have kids and buy houses and own businesses and be doctors and police officers and health professionals and all these things. And I can tell you from a parent's perspective, the first time you have your first child, everything that happened in your life before is nothing. And so all these amazing life experiences are going to happen. You're going to travel and see the world. None of this stuff is going to matter. Jordan and I would be laughing over a beer on his 21st birthday on June 7th. But we're not going to have that because he thought his whole life was over and he thought he had to fix it. And that's where this education comes in, because there's much, much more. In that moment, we wake up every day and we have a new day. And parents, don't beat yourself up. My friend Stephanie with Deay, 6-8 weeks worth of this going on. She's beating herself up all the time about this. And I keep telling her, Stephanie, it's not your fault. There's nothing you can do. It's so private, and they're so tucked in and secluded and reserved with this. They aren't going to show you any symptoms and signs. It's very rare. Just like the kid in the video, that's exactly what happens. He's playing with his sister and moving about the house and living his life while this amazingly horrible thing is happening to him. So don't beat yourself over parents, but like she said, there are signs, there could be signs, and we should look for those and do what we can as a parent, but we just have to do the best job that we can to mitigate social media use. We have to do the best job of paying attention to what's happening, being present in their lives, being present in their social media footprint.
Thank you, and that's a great segue to Mallory. So in the event a child has become a target of sextortion, what should or could families and caregivers or professional helpers do?
Yes, so the first suggestion is just to stop all communications with that suspect. Do not send money, do not send additional content or images. As law enforcement, we suggest that the child block the suspect, but do not delete their account. By deleting the account, it can prohibit some of our investigations. If they do delete it, that's okay too. But for the best outcome, we ask that they just block the user and not delete their account. And then report the crime. Report it to local law enforcement. You can report it online at necmac.org through the cyber tip line. And if images or content was sent, it's never too late to just stop communicating and ask for help.
Thank you. Kristen, could you tell us some effective ways to talk to young people about sextortion and how we might communicate potential danger signs?
Hi, so my name's Kristen Seidler. I am a mental health therapist with the Wausau Police Department. I work in the Victim Resource Unit with Sarah. And so my job consists of seeing victims of crime and providing free therapy for them. So I see a lot of people who are survivors of domestic violence, sex assault, teen dating violence, human trafficking, sextortion, all kinds of different things. And so what my advice is, as far as what we can do as a community, is gonna sound really general and a lot really simple, but it can be hard to do, and that's having these conversations. So having events like this to educate people. I'm a big proponent of education in the schools. I know the women's community, Jane talked a little bit about some of the stuff that they do. They have advocates that go into high schools and do curriculums on teen dating violence and different things. I think they've been in the Wausau School District for like 20 years or something, doing things. Super, super important. I know sometimes we worry about kids being exposed to things. They're going to be exposed to them no matter what. So we want to be in charge of the message that they're getting and the information that they're getting. Because if they're going to have the conversations with friends or out on social media, you're not going to, there's no way to guarantee the accuracy of that information. So being able to have programming things like that in schools, and the younger the better. Again, I know that, a lot of times we worry about exposing kids to too much too soon. Unfortunately, they're getting exposed to it whether we like it or not. So again, I'm more of a proponent of us being in charge of the messaging. Other than that, I think just having those conversations as well, and being willing to ask the hard questions. I do some presentations on suicide and depression and different things in some of the high schools, and that's one thing I tell the kids all the time, because a lot of times people get worried that if they ask somebody if they're feeling suicidal, that's going to put the idea in their head. And so I always tell the kids, like, that's a big myth, like, that's not what that does. All you're gonna do by being willing to like broach that subject is you're letting people know that you're a safe person to talk to and that they don't have to feel shameful or, you know, an outsider or anything speaking with you about that. So then you become a safe person. And so the same thing goes for us as adults, being willing to ask the hard questions and things that maybe we're not comfortable with as well.
And so in just a couple last, we're kind of speeding right through this panel, but this is a pretty big question for the doctor and for Kristen as therapists. How do we address young people who have self-harm or suicidal thoughts? Is there any way to say that quickly?
No. First and foremost, I think I have a belief with, as a dad and as a clinician, that my clients will talk to me about the things I'm willing to talk to them about. And I think it starts with professional helpers, caregivers, parents, so on and so forth, to ask the tough questions. Recognize that they estimate about 15% of all people diagnosed with depression will die by suicide. All right, so you may know some people who are struggling with depression. It puts them at significant risk already. So number one is being aware of some of the major risk factors or the predisposition to be at higher risk. I think when we're talking about self-harm and suicide, we have to be very, very direct. Do you want to hurt yourself versus do you want to kill yourself are two completely different questions. And I understand that do you want to kill yourself might provoke some anxiety in some people. There's not a shred of evidence to suggest that if you ask that question directly, will it raise the likelihood that that person will make an attempt on their life or die by suicide or even plant the idea in their head. What it has shown is the level of the level of anxiety in the individual that's struggling comes down because the elephant in the room has been named. If you cannot ask that question, please find somebody who can, okay? And worst case scenario, you might have to reach out for extra support. And they're gonna be mad at you. But you can talk about that maybe next week when they're still with us. But being able to ask directly, do you want to kill yourself? It's essential, I think.
Thank you. And last question for the panel, and we'll just kind of go down. Is there one piece of advice or action you would like folks in the room tonight to take away from this evening? Start with Mallory.
Yeah, so I think one piece of advice that I would say is just that parents and guardians don't fall into the trap of thinking this could never happen to me. You know, my kids, they're too smart, they know better. The fact is the predators, they prey on the most vulnerable, and they're very highly skilled manipulators. This is what they do day in and day out, unfortunately. And this is the best time, now is the best time to have that conversation with our kids about sextortion and really being safe online. And just to really let them know that it is a crime. There's tons of people who want to help and who are here to help, but we just have to know about it. So just getting that word out.
I would go back to the attachment thing, the brain development thing, and understanding the importance of attachment. At some point, a lot of our kids, to them, we become consultants with a bank account. And not to take that personally, remember when you were their age, what you prioritize, but focus on being that brake system and being able to step forward and ask the difficult questions and having the hard conversations.
Thank you.
I think the biggest thing is, again, getting comfortable with the uncomfortable. I also want to tell every parent that it's okay to be the bad guy. It's okay to be the person your child is mad at. That's allowed. My 6-year-old gets mad at me all the time, but that's allowed. We are meant to be their guardians. We are their protectors. And it's okay if you say, no more phone, or we have to set limits on your phone. No, you cannot take your phone into the bedroom. No, you cannot take your phone into the bathroom. No screen time at the dinner table. Whatever their boundary is, you are the parent, you are that guardian, you are their protector. It's okay to be the bad person. I promise you, they won't hate you forever, and you may just be saving their life or teaching them better coping skills, teaching them how to keep themselves safe. It's okay if your child gets mad at you. It doesn't last forever. They will love you in the end.
My takeaway would be kind of some of the things that they already said, but having those ongoing conversations. And you can use whatever to do that too. Songs on the radio, you know, clips that are going around on social media or TikTok, movies, TV. Like, use those things to talk to your kids about some of the hard subjects. You know, hey, this happened in here. Like, what do you think about that? Like, if that happened to a friend, like, you know, what do you think your advice would be? And use that to point out like really healthy and assertive behaviors as well. Like, hey, that was really cool how they, you know, turned that down. Like, what do you think about that? Like, would you feel that confident doing things like that? Sometimes that's a great way to start broaching those really hard subjects. And then it just gets you more comfortable talking with them and them more comfortable talking with you.
This is a really hard question because there's really so many takeaways. I mean, we could talk about
Just
social
one.
media. We could, yeah, right. We could just go on all day long about this stuff. I'm going to go on the conversation with your kids piece because I really think that involves both people in this room, the parents and the students and the young people. We have to embrace the social media. We have to embrace the technology. It's there. The social media companies are not going to protect you. They're not there. They're there to profit, and they're going to do everything they can do to get users younger and younger on their platforms. They're putting filters on there in games. They're trying to make your children addicted to their platform so they get them as lifelong users so they can sell advertising to Walmart and Target. That is why they make money. With that in mind, we have to tell our young people, listen, I know you're going to be on it, but we have to say, hey, honey, hey, darling, son, when you're on there at 9, 8, 10, whatever, if you see something online, or if you see something on your Roblox game that's kind of weird, let me know, would you? Yeah, sure. So when they do see some weird message come through, you start opening the conversations. Hey, Dad, I saw this weird message from this person. I don't know who it is. And you look at it and like, oh, okay, well, that's okay. You know, it might just be something. But that opens the door as young people to be able to be comfortable talking to you about things that they're seeing online that aren't right. And it starts at a young age, and there's probably teenagers in this room that are a little harder to have that conversation with, but for the parents that are raising young people like me, I have a 9 and 11-year-old now, that's what I do. I leave the technology, stays in our room, in our living area, kitchen, dining room area. It doesn't go into bedrooms and bathrooms and basements and forts and sheds and all the other things. It stays right there. And I have the conversation, hey, if you see anything on there, just let me know, okay? Okay, Daddy. You know, and I let them play the game. I'm listening to what's happening. So I'm listening to the communication that's going on. And so I think that's just the best message is to try to do whatever you can to have the conversations early on enough so they feel comfortable coming to you with a problem that might arise more seriously down the road.
Thank you very much. And thank you, panelists. I know that was kind of a whirlwind, but one round of applause for our panelists, please. And we're going to wrap up tonight with 2 other important messages. One focused on navigating the digital landscape by DC Everest School District Director of Technology, and some from Brittany at the Child Advocacy Center talking about local resources to help you and your young people in your life get access to the resources they need. So I think they're coming out to the stage. They are. Great.
Good evening. As we start things off tonight, just a couple reminders with the last few minutes that we have. If you arrived tonight and received the pamphlet that has a QR code on it, all the resources for tonight will be in there, including what we're going to talk about. So don't feel the need to necessarily go directly to that QR code. It is also located inside of here to take you to some of the resources. As Jane mentioned, I'm Brady Messenberg, Director of Technology at DC Everest, and our goal tonight to bring this full circle is really to provide some tangible resources and some ideas of what are some takeaways potentially to have discussions both with your students, and really as a community of options that do exist and that are out there.
So I'm Brittany Burnett. My role is the Advocate Case Manager through the Child Advocacy Center here in Wausau. We provide several resources to families in our area, but the main ones we do are forensic interviews for open cases of child abuse and neglect, and then we also provide court testimony to that. My role in particular is I am a victim advocate, so I serve already identified child victims in our area. And so part of that victimization, I do serve those who are involved in internet crimes, right, such as why we're here tonight. So I'm not going to go over all of these as our wonderful panelists, and even Brittany and John touched on these earlier. But some of the things that I do talk about with families, or that we do see in the area, are the topics here. So I do go over specialized safety plans with families that come through. And we want to recognize that these are not one size fits all, right? We recognize that families are unique and they have lots of different ways that families look in our area. So part of my role is to help families develop safety plans that are unique to their family. We want to help parents be successful, right? So we want to create things that help them be successful in their home. Some of the things I focus on, like I said, is a safety contract, which we've also talked about some of these things on our panels in terms of no cell phones or tablets, in closed doors or behind closed doors, in bathrooms, and at night. In my professional experience through the CAC and working with child victims is these crimes are occurring at night, right? And just as we saw in the video earlier, how that young man just kept getting text messages, that is what we're seeing, right? Kids and teens are being constantly bugged in the middle of the night. They hear their phone and they're like, oh, just to get it to stop, I respond, right? So the main takeaway from that is let's not have cell phones at night, right? So let's work around that safety contract, that safety planning. Well, my son or my daughter needs to have their cell phone in order to wake up for school. Let's buy an alarm clock, right? I feel like kids nowadays don't know that annoying buzzer sound. So let's come with other plans where they don't have to have their cell phones in their bedrooms at night. Other places, obviously, in the bathroom, behind closed doors. Also a big one for me, because we do see kids starting at the age of 3 and we go all the way up into 17. We are seeing kids at a young age engaging in these types of conversations with adults and predators online. We are seeing 6 or 7-year-olds being contacted on Roblox and being told to create accounts for certain applications where kids are then nowadays smart enough to do those things and then communicating on different platforms. So one of the big things that I that I talk about with kids is no searching Google by themselves, especially young kids who don't know how to spell things, who maybe don't know how to say things right, because that Google has an endless amount of things that we can't censor our kids from once they see it. So another big thing that I like to do as a takeaway is to create more space for communication and awareness. So that also happens with gaming contracts as well, as we are seeing games as platforms and how predators are reaching out to kiddos. Also, we talk about screen time contracts. So those other 2 slides focused on, these are the rules of what it's going to look like in our house when we have these devices, but this is the rules on how are we going to get time to be on those devices, right? So I have a certain resource contract for that. My contact information is in the presentation that you're more than welcome to email me or call me. I do answer warm lines and I will help you create these safety contracts for your home. One big takeaway that I do want to give to parents in terms of creating space and connection and talking with your kids, and something that I talk about with families when they see me at the CAC, is creating the concept of time-ins. So time-ins really focus around connection, right? So I'm a parent myself, right? And I do my best to check in with my kiddos, but also seems to be during the times of you get home from school, you're unpacking backpacks, you're unpacking lunches, you're getting dinner together, your husband's coming home, your other kid's here, so you're doing your best to communicate and check in that way. But the concept of time-ins really focuses on, all right, I'm gonna see my son at this time, 6 o'clock every night, it's you and me. Cell phones away, TV's off. Everybody else in the household knows that we are having our time to connect and communicate, right? Because sometimes we talk, but we don't always talk to listen. So we want to create those time-ins. Another takeaway that I wanted to bring awareness to tonight is also creating a support system. So I absolutely hear, not only tonight, but in families that I work with, I hear them say, well, my child knows that they can come and talk to me about anything, and I believe that wholeheartedly in every family, that is a real thing. But also, in my professional experience in working with kids, it's more common than not for kids to disclose to other adults, other kids, other school personnel than it is their parents. For their own reasons. Some of the reasons I hear from kids is, well, because they have the guilt and shame around it, but also, I don't want to make mom sad. I don't want to see her cry. I don't want her to be upset or disappointed with me. So for other reasons, they tell other adults, right? So during these time-ins, I highly encourage you to help your kids find out who is their safety person or safety supports. So outside of them, outside of mom and dad in the household, who are people, who are family friends, who are teachers that they can go to when they feel like they can't come to mom and dad, right? We want to identify them because when they're in crisis, we want to be like, all right, I talked about this. I can't go talk with mom and dad. I don't feel comfortable. This is who I'm going to go talk with. One step further, I do encourage parents then, once you find out who your kid's support system is, please reach out to them and let them know, hey, I had this conversation with my kiddo and they identified you as a safe person. And just let them know if they come and talk with you, that they're already aware so they're not thrown off, and then they can have time to plan and prepare, and then also then be able to tell the proper people and authorities after that.
So a general theme of, I think, what a lot of our conversation has been tonight is certainly around some awareness. And by no means is this intended to be a gotcha moment of what students are doing or what kids are looking at or going on. It's meant to open the conversation with people. Tonight you've heard referenced a lot of these. The simple reality is the minute that this goes up on a screen, it loses relevancy, right? Tomorrow something else will be there, something else will come up. But certainly from a starting point of the conversation, what both Brittany and I hear from the school district side, from the larger standpoint, is there's communication happening across multiple platforms. And certainly tonight you heard references to a lot of the social media pieces. The gaming platforms, I think, is one of the ones that's very surprising to people, the amount of communication that is also coming from outside of your area. I think a lot of times people have the misnomer that communication is with kids they know or with kids that they've talked to. Think of the global world on some of those platforms and what that looks like from other countries, as John mentioned tonight, from certainly places that are touching all the corners of the globe. The communication apps is another big piece. The regulation around a lot of these things, I love the way John said that at the end of the panel here, is it's the Wild West, right? It really is. So I think a lot of people also have the misconception that there is protections built into these. A simple checkbox of verifying that you're over the age of 13 oftentimes is enough to get by any of the pretty limited connection or protection that exists on those. So examples are certainly up here, but again, it's not an exhaustive list. There is a lot of things to watch out for. Another one that I would tell you, certainly from the school district standpoint, that is a conversation around the area in the state, is some of the other areas that are out there. Areas that are used to really try to hide things. Hidden apps is a new big thing. So in new iOS update, and if you're an iPhone user, the ability to hide apps. The ability to use apps that might look like something else. So the top example over there is simple calculator. Looks like a calculator to the untrained eye. But inside, it's really the ability to hide and store private information, private photos. The other big piece that I would highlight on here for any students in the room as well, we live in a new world, right, of access to information. And in today's day and age, pictures, locations, geolocation being attached, the metadata behind what you're putting out there. If you put a picture out on the internet and the ability to scrape the data and see where was that picture taken, what's the location of that person, Google Earth screen of where that person lives, it's a new world, right? The information is everywhere on there. So really looking at what is going out on the internet and being mindful of all of the information that is a part of that.
I could just add something real quick. Sorry, when we're talking about chatting, or especially young kids, chatting on either communication apps or gaming apps, a hard rule too, and I apply this to my house as well, is there's absolutely zero chatting on any of those apps, whether we know it's our friends or not. I don't want kids to get confused that, oh, well, this person says they're my friend, so they must be, right? That's not true. So even if I know that that is one of my kids' friends, we just shut down chatting altogether so that we're not confused who really is friends and who's really aren't.
So in the interest of time, I'll just briefly explain this. Don't feel the need again. It's QR code inside of there. If you are an Android user, just some ideas and options to be able to set restrictions on a phone. And again, certainly this isn't a one-size-fits-all. It's a conversation and a partnership with your children. But the theme I love from tonight, the big takeaway as a parent myself is this is a gateway to a great conversation of helping your children to develop, right? Of helping them become the person you want them to be and that they want to be. So these are options, right? Options to help set up some level of restriction on a phone, both Android and Apple iPhones. And when you go on, there are options. The Apple version of it is called Apple Screen Time. It's built within the operating system. Google's is a little different, but same thing tied to the Android world. It's called Family Link. The only real big difference that I would highlight for you is Google's is really for 13 and under. So that 13 number you'll hear is a pretty common one. It's tied to the Child Online Privacy Protection Act, COPA. A couple years ago, Congress had talk of raising that limit, and it did not go through, so it's still at 13 right now. And that 13 age limit is kind of I'm sure many of you have seen it, right? That's that checkbox that says 13 or over, 13 and under, not allowed to set accounts up for a lot of these things. All right, one other highlight, as we've had this conversation and when Brittany and I talked about it, monitoring options. So again, this I don't view as any sort of gotcha moment. It's really a true help and assist in development. John mentioned and highlighted a few of these. By no means is this an advocacy for any one of the individual ones. There are literally dozens of options that exist out there. The options that we have highlighted, I would say, fit into a couple of unique buckets. Certainly the ability to approve apps is a big one. Know the apps that are going onto a device, that are going onto a phone, are going onto an iPad. That's a big one. A really popular option certainly is also the idea of location safety as well, as a big piece to it. Popular options that exist there. So it's not a push to say any of them. Most of these have paid options embedded into them. They are businesses, they are companies. Some of them also market their own phones and watches as part of it, so you can get entire cell plans built around it. And some of them are just simply options to have some level of app discovery monitoring on a device. So not an exhaustive list, but certainly some pretty, what I would say are pretty tried and tested options that have been around and kind of stood the test of time and get very, very high reviews for their ability to, provide some support in this area. And then really last is just a couple of resources that I would say kind of get to the same idea, and I'll let Brittany talk about the first one here. But really the idea is to provide some options and resources and start the conversation or continue the conversation with your children.
Right, absolutely. And so a resource that I do like to share with families when I see them at the Child Advocacy Center is Protect Young Eyes. This resource is, once again, not the end-all be-all, but it's a really great starting point and a place that I like to send parents to first. So on this website, it is a whole list of different type of applications out there, right? So Snapchat, all the things. You go in and you click, and that will take you to a description of what is the app, what is the pros and cons of the app. Also, like, is it, do predators have access? Like, is there chat? All the things. So this is a really great starting point that I like to send to families to kind of then branch out and be educated on the different apps out there. So if you are doing a check-in with your kid and you are noticing or they're talking about a certain app and you're like, oh, wait a minute, tell me more about that, but then they're like, I don't want to tell you, or like they're just not really sure what it is, you can go under Protect Young Eyes, find that app, and read all about it, and then decide if that's something, nope, we need to shut down, or hey, let's create some safety parameters around this app.
I would also highlight Common Sense Media, if you've not heard of that or used that. It's a similar platform in the ability to do kind of an app review, something you've not heard of. You've not been familiarized with something. I'm sure there's a lot of things you heard tonight. That might be the first time you're hearing of what that is. It's a great opportunity to hop on and really search and look, what is that all about, and what are the reviews, what are people saying about what might be some of the concerns with it. In addition to that, it's also really deep into games and movies as well. So new movies that come out, it's kind of, again, a crowdsourced review of what that might look like and what are some of the concerns and pitfalls. And then lastly, I would highlight, John referenced this during his presentation, Take It Down. Really the tremendous value and purpose is in the event that things do happen and that a photo is out there or you know, some illicit content that you don't want out there, both from a parent standpoint or from a child standpoint. The website's linked in there. And again, it is really the heart of it is to remove that, right? So the commitment is to really take down explicit images that might have found their way onto the internet. So again, just to recap, really the goal is just some exposure to resources. The QR code that's in the pamphlet there has access to all of the things. We tried to link everything out so that if there are things you want to go back and reference, you know, when you get home or at a later date, it's kind of a spot for all of that stuff to be there. Thank you.
Well, tried to summarize, tried to take some notes on my own takeaways here tonight, continuing to learn myself. And one thing that I heard loud and clear was the idea that, you know, we don't have to be perfect. We have to lean into this conversation. We have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. I heard that come up a number of different times. And you being here tonight is obviously evidence that you're willing to learn, looking for ways to continue to support our kids. And I think that's a continuing conversation. It's maybe, as I listened to John's story and I listened to Brittany share their family's experience, one of the things I would say I'm inspired to do is to be comfortable enough to take that, you know, beyond my own household too, right? To talk to a friend, to talk to a neighbor, to be willing to talk a little bit more about what we're learning here, because we can have a multiplier effect. And I think we continue to see data that this is a concern that's much bigger than any one of us, and it's bigger than just our community, but I'm grateful to be in a community that's willing to come out, participate, and try to have this conversation. So maybe a gateway into that conversation, as I think about for people that don't have the opportunity to really dig in the way we are tonight, it can feel like a foreign world to even start this kind of a conversation. I think back to my own parents raising a moron adolescent such as myself, and the reminder that we're going to make dumb decisions along the way, and we're not expecting perfection. And the message that I had as a kid was, when you do screw up, when that happens inevitably, I'm still here for you. We're gonna talk about it in the morning. I heard John say there might be a boot involved and a phone is gone, or there's consequences for our actions. But that doesn't mean that we're not going to be here to support each other. And I know that's a parental message, but we have law enforcement professionals up here, we have mental health therapists, we have educators in the room. There's a community that wants to help educate, but also forgive and be patient and help us move on together. So I think that that is still relevant, right? That message that I'm here for you is something that we can all give to each other. So. Resources, whether it's tech resources that we're just hearing about here, whether there are professionals here in the community, or again, just the resources that we have with each other, continue to lean on those and look for them and recognize that there's a lot more in our community than we recognize. So to not be afraid to ask those questions about things that we don't know, because we're going to continue to be confronted with new things that we need to learn about. So I want to thank all of our panelists. Behind the scenes, the women's community and Danny's Journey, their foundation supporting this event, helping to spread education here in Marathon County and beyond. I want to thank you for being here, coming out, spending your night. It's a beautiful night out there, and you're in here talking about hard things, and you're coming together, and Very grateful for that. And I absolutely want to end by thanking Brittany, John, the families for sharing their incredible story here tonight. So hug your kids, be a little extra patient, a little extra kind with people around you, and thanks for being here tonight, and a round of applause to all of our participants. Thank you. Take care.